mean, the Steelers were 11-0, everything was fine, and you would have thought, yeah, maybe they can actually contend in the AFC and would be the strongest competitor for the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. But I mean, right now they're a complete mess. I mean, they've just lost the third game in a row, and this against the Bengals team without their star quarterback or their star running back. Like they lost to like what is his name, Finley? Like who even is he? Like you would have to Google where he came from. So that's just yeah, a complete mess there.
Yeah, there's a real chance that the Steelers could end up finishing 11-5 after starting 11-0. Their next two games are the Colts and the Browns, and the way they're playing at the moment, you definitely wouldn't expect them to win either of those games. But yeah, you're right, they are a total mess right now. They don't really have any sort of identity on offense. They've got a whole host of injuries across the defense, especially at the linebacker position. And yeah, when you watch them, they look so disjointed. Like there's no real kind of chemistry between Big Ben and the wide receivers. They still can't run the ball. They're I think they're the second worst team at running the ball in the whole NFL. Only the Texans are worse than them. And yeah, it's just a total mess. The game against the Bengals just completely reinforced that. They look shocking, and yeah, I mean, this is the worst time of the year to be playing like this. This is when you want to be, playing your best football. You want to be putting your best foot forward going into the playoffs, and the Steelers have just regressed massively over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I think you really start to see like Ben Roethlisberger's age again. Like he's 38, and now like at the beginning of the season, somehow they could made up for maybe his age, lack of mobility, because they used a lot of quick passes, a lot of screens. So he never really had to throw the ball downfield that much. And now, obviously, if you get an early, like if you fall behind early, you really need to rely on a quarterback to get you back into the game. And he was just especially in the first half, it was just a mess. Like after they were trading 17-0, like he was responsible for two of the three turnovers in the first half. And yeah, like with an interception and then that botched exchange on a snap, he looked completely off, and you could really see his age. Like that's just it was ugly.
Yeah, I think probably the worst thing that you can be in the NFL is predictable, and that's just what the Steelers have become. I mean, we know they've got no running game at all, and Big Ben can't throw the ball down the field. Like we saw it against the Bengals. He just the arm strength wasn't there, the accuracy wasn't there, and when you start to become predictable like that, and even a team like the Bengals, who definitely aren't one of the best defenses in the league. They're probably one of the worst. But you saw the way they played the Steelers. They had everyone up, close to the line of scrimmage, and they were just sitting on all of the short and intermediate routes. And you saw it. I think they had 6 passes defensed and the Mackenzie Alexander interception. But yeah, they were just sitting there waiting for the Steelers to throw these short throws, because they've pretty much got nothing else. Like there's no other offense or avenue that they can turn to. Um, and yeah, I really don't like their chances against the Colts or the Browns either. And yeah, there's a real chance they could lose this division now.
Yeah, I mean, if the Browns beat the Jets, which let's be honest, they will, and the Steelers lose to the Colts, which I think there's a high probability that that's going to happen. I mean, it will all come down to the Week 17 showdown in Cleveland for the title. I mean, the Browns last won the division title in 1989. That's actually the longest current like drought in the league. So that's going to be one hell of a matchup. And who would have thought that, like at the beginning of the year, or even like yeah, like I said a month ago, like everything was going well. But I mean, you can lose a game to the Bills because they've just roll over people at the moment. But I mean, to lose games to the Bengals and the Washington football team, that just has to worry you. And you've seen they're kind of on edge as well, because obviously the whole criticism surrounding Juju Smith-Schuster's dancing on the opponent's logos, and now even Mike Tomlin kind of had to get involved in that and said he's going to speak to him. And I even saw, I think this morning, that Juju Smith-Schuster posted something on his social media that he's going to stop dancing on the logos.
Yeah, it's one of those problems where if you're winning and you haven't lost a game all year and you're 11-0, then stuff like that isn't a problem. But as soon as you start losing and people start to point to it, oh, maybe this has something to do with it, that's when it needs to be addressed. But personally, I don't think there's too much in it. But yeah, I mean, it does kind of give the other team maybe a little bit of extra motivation. Maybe I think you saw with the Von Bell hit when Juju was coming across the field and he hit him and forced the fumble. And then after the game, he was kind of pretty happy about it. Just little things like that. And when teams do start to lose, you see it in pretty much every sport. People will always try and pinpoint why. And this is kind of an easy thing to just point at and blame on this pretty much.
Yeah, I think they obviously then will make the playoffs as a wildcard team the least, but they're going to be one and done. And yeah, the team they're going to play in the first round will be very happy to play them and not anyone else, because the way they look now, everyone's going to beat them.
Yeah, and the one reason why I don't want to completely write Pittsburgh off yet. I know pretty much everything's trending downwards and they really don't look very good. But they do have Mike Tomlin as their head coach. And for me, he's one of the top 3 coaches across the whole NFL. I would put him up with Andy Reid and Belichick, I think, as probably the 3 best coaches. And we saw what he did last year, all of that adversity they faced with his 4th string quarterback, managed to will them somehow to 8-8. And we've actually seen Tomlin and Big Ben win a Super Bowl from a wild card spot before, so it's definitely not something that's unheard of. But yeah, the Steelers are trying to make it very hard for themselves by potentially slipping into the wild card race. This was a team that had the 1 seed pretty much locked up 3 or 4 weeks ago. But yeah, I think Tomlin's a fantastic coach, and if there's anyone who's going to be able to kind of galvanize this team and get them back on track, I think he'll be the man to do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, no doubt, I agree with you on that. Tomlin is a great coach, but yeah, the Steelers will have a lot to work on and a lot to figure out before the playoffs start. Like they probably should kind of see these next 2 games already as kind of playoff type games, just to even get them back into some sort of form to even contend in like a first rounds of the playoffs.